Hey guys, this is Believe It or Not. We're not experts.
Not even close. And most of what I'm doing here is just asking questions. So, sorry.
Yeah, so you can ask your own questions, look into it further, and just have some fun with us.
Yeah, and sometimes we say bad potty words, so sorry.
I got hymns here. Get them while they're holy, fresh from God's brain to your mouth.
He's God here in this radio station. Smite me! Almighty smiter!
The Bible is black and white.
I have such doubts.
Get out of here, devil!
I'm a God, I'm not the God. I don't think.
And you will know my name is the Lord!
We're on a mission from God.
Hey everybody, welcome to Believe It or Not.
Yeah, the podcast where we talk about things that we don't really know about.
It's true. We Google stuff about an hour before, and then we talk about it.
Yes, mostly to do with spirituality and religion, I
Really,
guess you'd say.
what people believe.
Hey, maybe
about
we'll
how-
start talking about Sasquatches, too.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
We could always do that.
Yeah.
I would like to, first of all, apologies to everybody. It was trivia night last night, and I have a headache as a result.
Yes, Trevor is slightly incapacitated, but
Yeah.
we won't hold it against him.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yes. What do you know about Jehovah's Witnesses?
Answer the door naked and they stop coming.
That's true. Yeah.
I've never done it, but I've heard that's what you do.
Yeah, that's a good call. My dad would always argue with them. That was his method. I'm always the, oh, no, thank you kind of guy.
I've never actually met one at
Oh,
the
really?
door. Well, I've probably
no,
met
not at
one
the
before.
door, but I had one come up to me on the street. And a lot of times now that's what they do is they do the those little booths outside of the train stations and stuff. Yeah.
They seem to like the least confrontational ones, though.
Yeah, because they're the ones that just have kind of that little stand.
Yeah.
Where they're not the ones that go up to you and go, believe.
What's the magazine they got? Is it
They have the Watchtower and Awake are
Awake,
the two magazines they have.
Yeah. They always leave me alone. They seem like okay.
Just want to give you magazines. Yeah.
They never want to give me a magazine.
Well, I've only had it once where, and it wasn't one of the guys at the booth. It was just a regular Jehovah's Witness who decided he wanted, to tell me about, the Lord. He walked up to me right outside of Dave's old place. I don't know. The audience knows Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, and he's like, you want a really cool magazine? That's how he worded it. And I was like, no, thank you. He's like, I don't know, it's a pretty good magazine. I was like,
Was it Mad Magazine?
Yeah, I was like, ooh, do you have a Mad Magazine or a Penthouse?
That would have been cool.
Ooh. But no, it was just about the Lord.
Do you think if they started giving out Penthouse magazine, that would be a better incentive to get people to talk to them
Yeah, I think so.
about the Lord?
Yeah. A couple of things that I always knew about Jehovah's Witnesses personally were they don't celebrate birthdays or Halloween or any Christmas, any holidays.
Sounds very boring.
Yeah, and that's to do with a couple things. I think they don't believe... They believe they're kind of from pagan backgrounds, and also they hold things up besides Jesus. You're supposed to...
Okay, but how do you get presents then?
That's a good question. One podcast I listened to, one of the hosts is a former Jehovah's Witness, and he loves Christmas now. It's just
I mean, how could you not?
Yeah.
Not from a religious standpoint, but just from a, happy fun times.
Yeah, exactly.
Eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
Things like that. Spend a lot of money.
Yeah. Another thing I always knew about them is they would refuse blood transfusions.
I've heard of this, yes. I think there were a few cases in the States. Weren't the families... sued for that?
Yeah, I think so.
Their children died and stuff like that.
And it's all from a verse that says you're not supposed to consume blood. And it's like, well, I think that's more like just drinking it out of a goblet.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think a transfusion is consuming.
Yeah. I heard a sermon once where the guy said you shouldn't eat blood pudding or blood sausages because that's against the Bible. And that's when I was like, oh, none of this makes sense.
Wouldn't it just be worse to just waste the blood, though?
Yeah, you'd think. Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to use it, why not? Let's just dump it on the ground. We don't need that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so another thing. I had always heard, because you know how Jehovah's Witnesses have their own Bible?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew that, but they have their own translation of the Bible. And I always thought that's what started the religion, was that the guy who founded it, translated the Bible, and then they kind of started their religion out of that.
Okay.
But
so it's a chicken.
apparently, their translation didn't come out till 1950.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When did they start?
And they started in the late 1800s.
Okay, so they were working on a different belief system before they had it.
Yeah, so because so to backtrack a little bit, they were originally the Bible student movement, and they would the whole thing was like they were trying to get away from mainstream Christianity and just following the beliefs because that's tradition, and they wanted to get just back to the Bible and only believe things based on what they interpreted the Bible as.
Yeah.
And so they would use Greek and stuff like that to study the Bible. And a lot of that can be scary sometimes too, because you're going word by word and you don't know what that's not how language works. Yeah, you don't just go word by word and you can figure it all out. Like you kind of have to know the language.
Yeah.
But so there was a lot of that and a lot of just saying, okay, we're going to get back to the basics, how Christianity was
I
at
find
the
that
beginning
seems
of
to be a
Christianity.
very common theme with different sects.
Yeah.
They always want to get back to basics.
Yeah.
And every interpretation seems to be different.
Yeah, exactly.
About what the basics are.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember the guy's name, though. There's a really good podcast called The Human Bible. And what he does is he's a Bible scholar, former Baptist preacher who's now an atheist, but he just goes through and studies the Bible from a historical point of view and kind of where it came about and the way the Bible is interpreted and stuff like that. And he says that their translation is one of the more accurate ones.
Okay.
And he's saying that their religion is kind of closer to what it was at the beginning of Christianity in a lot of ways, but we'll find that there's definitely ways that it's not at all.
Yeah.
So, so we'll go back to the beginning. 1830s. This is before their founder was born. The founder is Charles Taze Russell. But in the 1830s, there was a guy by the name of William Miller. And he was going around saying the world was going to end. Jesus was going to come back in 1843.
Did it happen?
I'm not a history scholar.
That's true.
Yeah, I haven't looked it up, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I feel like that would be something they'd teach in school. Like, oh yeah, and by the way, the second coming of Jesus Christ was in 1843. But I didn't pay attention a lot.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe he came back and got caught up in the consumerist culture and he owned a surf shop.
Yeah. It's very possible. This kind of started the end time stuff and Return of Christ stuff to be more central to a lot of people's theology, whereas before it was just kind of viewed as like, oh, this might happen. Christ might come back in our lifetime. He might not.
More of a surety and more of what, like, almost an end goal for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so he kind of went on the coattails of that, and that's how he started. He went around preaching that Christ had come back in 1874.
Okay.
But not in a physical sense. And that the second coming was actually like more of the presence of Christ would return, which I always thought wasn't that the whole thing was that he always
had his presence.
But
okay.
Yeah, and then the real establishing of the kingdom, God's kingdom on earth, would happen in 1914. And that, which also not a history guy. I don't know a lot about history, but I don't think that happened.
Yeah.
In 1914. So that the theology kind of changed around once that happened, and I think it's the way the world was before. I don't think the kingdom of...
World War II began in 1914.
That's true.
So maybe God is war.
Yeah, that's true. Which is ironic because Jehovah's Witnesses don't participate in war, and they won't join the army.
Okay.
So Charles Taze Russell is kind of the main founder of what he started the Zion's Watchtower Society with another man named Henry Conley, and that became the Watchtower Society. So they would print religious tracts and books and stuff like that. And he didn't write a translation of the Bible. He wrote kind of a guide to how to read the Bible.
Yeah.
He originally called it Millennial Dawn, which is a pretty cool name.
Millennial Dawn.
Yeah, kind of an end of the world way to understand the world.
I thought it was the start of eating avocado toast.
Oh, yeah. friggin' millennials.
Dawn of the millennials.
But yeah, and then they later renamed it to the Boring Studies in the Scripture, which is a way more boring name than Millennial Dawn.
Yeah, I think that's a little more catchy.
Yeah, and then, so he died in 1916, and then the guy who took over was a guy named Joseph Franklin Rutherford.
Joseph or Joseph?
Joseph, sorry. Did I say Joseph?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. I was probably...
I just thought it could have been a weird name.
Could have been, yeah.
I wanted to clarify.
Yeah. But, and it was in 1931 that they changed the name from the Bible student movement to the Jehovah's Witnesses. So not even in the founder's lifetime was it.
Yeah, it was called after.
Yeah. But to backtrack a little bit, when it was still just the Bible study movement when it started, there wasn't really a lot of hierarchy there. Like, he would guide them in their theology and stuff like that, and he would visit them and make sure that they were kind of on track. But
it was a lot more of like a communal kind of personal study thing.
A lot more casual, Yeah. But now it's very, very much a hierarchy where you listen to like the governing body, like they set the theology, they tell you what's what, and you just have to like kind of follow them. I'm going all over the place on this one, but I saw this short film that the Jehovah's Witnesses made recently. And it was about the end of the world, and the police are hunting down Jehovah's Witnesses because they really have this thing where like they're the ones that are going to be the most wanted at the end of the world because they're the only ones that have the right theology. So when the like second coming happens, the bad guys are going to be searching for them because they're the only ones that really know the truth, so they're the ones that are going to be most persecuted.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll share a link in the...
That's interesting.
Yeah, in the notes. Yeah.
Have you seen that one where it was Jehovah's Witnesses, we were talking about masturbation?
No.
They're sign languaging it.
Oh,
and then they
right.
say it to 50 cents in the club.
That's so good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. They have a lot of cartoons, too, about, like... There was one where a kid was playing with, like, basically a Gandalf toy, or they were talking about how evil it was because it's magic, and, the victory at the end was the kid throwing out his toy.
Oh. That's sad.
And then I think there was one about, like, a kid wanted to buy ice cream and then decided to give his money to the church instead, or something like that. But, yeah. So they make a lot of, like, materials and short films and stuff like that, and, because their whole thing is evangelizing and getting their message out there.
Yeah.
So,
it's just sad when it's a victory for taking money from a child.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's a good thing. Okay.
All right, so let's talk about some of their beliefs. Okay, so we know about the birthday thing and the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
You talk about they don't participate in war.
Yeah.
How did that affect them during when people were being drafted? Were they able to be exempt from it because of their religion? I wouldn't.
Sometimes in Canada here we put them in internment camps with Japanese.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty sad. So we put them in internment camps. The Germans put them in concentration camps.
Yeah.
Like they had their own triangle and stuff in concentration camps. It's like a pretty sad situation.
Yeah.
Because it's all about refusing to participate in anything government.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did you go to school with any Jehovah's Witnesses?
No, I didn't.
Okay, because there was
that
two.
I know of.
There was two in my class, and during the national anthem they would leave the room, and because they're not allowed to give any allegiance to anything but Jehovah.
Yeah.
So if you're giving allegiance to the country, then you're worshiping the country as an idol.
Yeah.
And when you're serving in the military or even participating in politics, like you're not allowed to vote, you're not allowed to run for office, anything like that, because it's participating in an earthly government when you're supposed to be preparing for the kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
so in that context, them refusing to go to war, would that be considered treason then in that kind of during
that time. Yeah.
Okay.
It was considered treason. There was a lot of people jailed and stuff, and
good to know.
Yeah. A couple of the big things that really separate them from the main churches is since the beginning it's always been about there's no such thing as hell, and there's no such thing as the Trinity as Christianity has traditionally understood it. And I think it was the hell doctrine, from what I'm seeing, that really made Charles Russell start to question his beliefs and start to change, because he didn't understand why God would punish people for eternity for a finite crime. And in studying the Bible, and personally, my beliefs started changing a lot for the same reasons when I was still like.
It is a hard thing to kind of fathom, the idea that a simple mistake that you can make in a very inconsequential amount of time can affect eternity.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is insane.
And like I started studying the Bible in a very similar way and I discovered kind of the same thing, that the Bible doesn't really talk about hell much. It's more theology, and it's more like over time, these little snippets of things in the Bible got turned into what they call hell, and what most people understand of a doctrine of hell is actually just from what's that book, Dante's Inferno? Like, really, not
okay,
not much of it is really from the Bible. So he was kind of onto something there, but so that's one of the things that kind of makes them distinct. They think it's more like an annihilation type of deal, except for the select people.
So then just everyone else just kind of disappears?
Yeah.
Type thing?
Yeah, so you just don't exist after you die.
Like
Except for
real life.
Yeah, like in real life. Except for the certain amount of people. Originally it was 144,000, because there's one verse in the Bible that says 144,000 will be like chosen to live
that's
on.
it? 144,000.
Which made sense when they started, but now that they have millions of followers, that doesn't work as well. So that's kind of changed over time. But that's another fundamental thing about their theology, is they don't believe that it can be set in stone. They think that you learn things, that God reveals things over time to them.
I wonder, when it was 144,000, what the percentage of the population would have been, or the known population for them would have been.
Yeah.
And whether they would have thought, like, oh, that's a good amount of people.
Yeah.
Because now not so much.
Yeah, that's like a small town.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the other thing is that they don't really believe in the Trinity in the same way. Okay. So it's God created Jesus, like Jehovah created Jesus, and then Jesus created everything else. Is kind of the belief. And then Jesus, as we know him in the New Testament, had also appeared a few times in the Old Testament as the Archangel Michael.
Oh, some cameos.
Yeah, a little bit of foreshadowing, some cameos. They just had a different name for him.
Yeah, like when C-3PO shows up in The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey!
But he, wait a minute. Darth Vader made C-3PO?
How come we didn't remember him later?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think it's a pretty standard view on Satan. I don't think I'll go through that. It's kind of the same way most Christians believe him, as an angel who fell to heaven. Which, that's a whole other thing.
Fell from heaven. That might be a good one to talk about, is Satan.
Yeah, that'll be a good episode. I was thinking about saving that one for Halloween.
Oh, that'd be good, too. Yeah.
That and Satanism. Yeah, which are very different things.
Satanism's good. And then there's two branches. There's the Church of Satan, and then there's another one. It's the Satanic Temple.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're similar, but different.
And there's also, because I think they're more symbolism, as Satan is a symbol of
they use it
rejecting,
more from it's more of a tool to enact political change than anything. And they're the ones who fight a lot of Christian groups from putting religious stuff in schools by saying, well, we should be able to put ours in schools too. They had the Satanist coloring book and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Fun stuff to talk about later.
Yeah, but right now we're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses. Were you around during the ice storm of 1997? Were you in that area?
Which area?
It was no, you wouldn't have been.
I would have been 7. So.
You would have been 7. I would, because I was 17 or something like that. But when I was a young lad, there was an ice storm, and for some reason, one of the radio hosts made a joke that for Jehovah's Witnesses, hell has frozen over. Because they thought that Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Earth just became hell. And there's something to that, but not really. Earth is where the non-select Jehovah's Witnesses
just stay.
Yeah, okay. So 144,000 get to rule, and then
the rest get
just... But it's a renewed kingdom. And it's the Earth is this new deal. A whole new it's God made it
start
better.
over?
Yeah. Gotta start over? What are we, dinosaurs again?
That'd be cool.
Yeah. It'd be alright. We talked about their evangelism. Oh, let's talk about shunning.
Shunning.
So that's a big thing.
Is that a big thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, if you sin, so usually a sexual sin or questioning the authority of the Watchtower. So those are the big ones. They have different levels of discipline for you. So like kind of a member of your congregation will, like a group of members of your congregation will kind of create like almost like a jury type thing where they decide how to discipline you. But a lot of times it involves shunning. So there's different levels of shunning from what I've heard. So you have, I've heard of ones where like you can go to church, but for a certain amount of time, nobody's allowed to talk to you, and you have to sit in the back row type thing, and you're not allowed to, I guess they don't call it church, but anyways, yeah, but there's other ones where, like, if it gets to the point where you decide you don't want to be Jehovah's Witnesses anymore, and if you grew up in the organization, your family is supposed to shun you, and you're not allowed to have contact.
They do that, the Mormons will do that too, won't they? If you like, I know like once you leave the church, a lot of times they won't. You're not allowed to talk to your family anymore. I think it's more. Sure. I think it's with some of the more extreme ones.
Maybe like the fundamentalist ones. I know, like with Mormons, you won't be able to go to certain things. Like you won't be able to go to your family's weddings and things like that. But you can still have contact with them. There's just certain things you're not allowed to do. But with Jehovah's Witnesses, it's like you're just cut off.
It's such a I don't want to say juvenile, but it feels
like you can't play with us anymore.
But like also a very effective way to self-regulate.
Because you don't want to get stuck.
It's just like you want people to follow, so the best way to get them to follow is to put the fear of being shunned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was watching a video a while ago of a guy who would send letters to his mom with pictures of his daughter in it and stuff, like, I want you to have a relationship with your granddaughter, and they would all just get returned to sender. She wouldn't even open them. It's just so sad.
Especially with something like I find with a lot of these, there's always such a huge sense of a community with that kind of religion, and then when you start cutting people off from that community, it's just like,
and you're just not set up. Like I know like it's hard to get set up for the outside world if you decide to leave, right? Because like they don't allow higher education either, or it's not that it's not allowed. It's just highly frowned upon to go to college and things like that.
That's kind of depressing. Yeah,
because the world's gonna end soon. So why are you wasting time doing that? Yeah. So like things like that are depressing.
It's just systematically keeping people dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty rough. And we talked a little bit about the blood transfusion. I remember my friend's dad was Jehovah's Witness, but his mom was a Pentecostal, which is really against their doctrine too. Like if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you don't marry somebody who's not. Like you're not allowed to. But his dad was still practicing and stuff, so
I'm sure there's always going to be leeway in those kind of things. There usually seems to be.
Because he was saying too, because I asked him about blood transfusions. And so he asked his dad about it, and he's like, Dad, if I ever needed a blood transfusion and you were the only one that could give it to me, would you do it or would you let me die? And his dad's like, you do a lot for your kids that you're not supposed to do. So his dad, I think, was just way more lenient than others.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of times you're going to get people like that, which is good to hear.
Yeah. And then it was weird too. Another, like, one of my experiences was my friend who I knew in Calgary, he grew up Jehovah's Witness and still was. I met his mom and his grandma one day, and they still had like the beehive haircut, like the old 60s, and were wearing like the old 60s dresses and stuff. And that just like threw me off, because I was like, I did not expect that. Like it looked like they just stepped out of a time machine.
That's weird.
And then but you see those guys handing out the magazines and stuff, and a lot of them are like just hip cool looking dudes. So
usually they're wearing like nice clothes.
Yeah, but I actually never noticed. Do the women wear mainly dresses? Because that's the thing with a lot of.
I think I've seen a few like pantsuits and stuff like that too.
Because it's always weird. You can always tell like a fundamentalist Baptist by the dress. They always have like the dress down. It has to be past their ankles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. And what else? Any questions? Any other questions?
I think I'm good right now. I'm trying to think because I had the thing about the draft dodging. That was a big thing when that came up because especially in the time when the draft would have been an issue.
Yeah, and it's funny too because they're very big on persecution. Not funny, but they're big on persecution. Like since they have the only true theology that they're going to be the ones who are persecuted most.
Yeah.
But it's really for their stance on government stuff that they do get persecuted.
Yeah.
So that's got to feed back into that kind of.
It's one of those things where it seems like such a simple persecution to avoid.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not like if you're.
I mean, it sounds like victim blaming, but
because there's a lot of different.
I don't mean it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of different organizations that are like that do avoid joining the army for different reasons.
Of course.
For me, it's because I have trouble lifting a gun.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. And you got to shoot them, and I probably like fall backwards and.
What? Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. All right, so that was Trevor's Googling of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Wow, we learned so much today about
them. So let's move into our other segment.
Can't you see you're not making Christianity better? You're just making rock and roll worse.
All right, who's today?
Who's today is Audio Adrenaline.
Audio Adrenaline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Audio Adrenaline was a band I hated when I was a teenager.
Why did you hate
so
them?
Most of these bands are people I liked because I thought that their lyrics were awful. And they were. They had multiple songs about how they weren't Jesus, they were just a rock band. It's like, yeah, no, we get it. I never thought you were the Lord. But this song's about how great heaven is. And I figured since 144,000 people get to see heaven, then let's talk about what heaven is like. And this song is called Big House.
How do you say... Okay, sorry, I'm just reading some of these. How do you say that?
Oh, you mean bop bop wow woo yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A bit of
bee bop bop bow woo yeah.
And I want you to close your eyes, Damien, and just picture what heaven is like.
Okay.
For it's a big, big house with lots and lots of room. A big, big table with lots and lots of food. A big, big yard where we can play football. A big, big house. It's my father's house. Did that transport you to a beautiful place with lots of room for activities?
It looked like basically a poorly designed courtyard outside of a bad apartment complex.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's heaven. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I pictured like a cheap hotel, a big banquet room, and then a bad backyard with a chain link fence, and a rundown 2-story home.
You, my friend, just pictured heaven.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, I hope we see you all there. In heaven in a big, big house.
Yeah, we'll be out in the garage smoking cigarettes and painting the shed.
Talking about our days.
Thinking about painting the shed. Because we'll be in the garage.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Work, Sky Moon.